Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is the 6th episode of the story in which Naruto has gained knowledge of his heritage and of a bloodline thought extinct. He must now leave Konoha to master his new abilities and bring back the glory of the Uzumaki, and he will have the help of a 5th Kage of Kirigakure with a similar past. After watching, like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin. Grass country, forest clearing, Naruto. The two rivals could see no one but each other. One was curious while the other was silently fuming. Sasuke. The blonde simply noted, not bothering to honor the traitor with conversation. Not being able to take it any more, Sakura got to her feet and ran towards Naruto. Naruto-kun. Her tears were stinging reminders of just what Sasuke had put her through here. Naruto-kun? This is different. Sasuke thought to himself, curious as to what happened while he was away. Naruto caught Sakura and hugged her, bringing the medic close to him in an effort to comfort and protect her. "It's alright Sakura, I'm going to get you out of here." Without another word, Naruto created 2 shadow clones and had both escort Yamato and Sakura away from the battlefield. But wait Naruto. I thought that you were Dash. The pink-haired girl was cut off when Yamato knocked her out with a small hit to the back of her neck, silencing her pleas. "Good luck Naruto, I believe this is your fight more than anyone else," the wood user said before he disappeared with the 2 shadow clones and an unconscious Sakura. Sai began to melt into an inky substance, leaving Sasuke to have a free sword to fight with. Naruto could only guess that Sai was able to get away and now it would be his fight alone with the 3. This is quite an interesting turn of events Kabuto. Would you be a dear and go stop the Leaf Shinobi from getting away? We can't let anyone find out of our activities here. Kabuto nodded and before Naruto could move to stop him, disappeared from sight. Damn, Naruto muttered, he would have to make this fight quick so he could go help the Leaf Shinobi. And now I think I will let you two fight it out. I will be back at our hideout Sasuke, return when you have defeated the annoyance. Sasuke just snorted before wiping his blade clean of the remaining ink that still contaminated the sword. Orochimaru then disappeared into the forest, something Naruto was silently thankful for. Before this one-sided battle starts, why don't you tell me why you wear a Kiri uniform? Did you start worshipping that weakling Zabuza after I left? Because that sword looks like a complete rip-off. Sasuke taunted Naruto who was keeping his anger in check barely. No, actually I left Konoha for Kiri. Sasuke's eyes widened a bit at that had been his first guess actually. What a hypocrite, you tell me that you would never betray Konoha like I did and now look at you, an enemy of our old comrades. I suppose you intend to bring me back, at least for Sakura's sake. Naruto began to smirk at that, his hands shifting the blade around in his palms. No, I've known for a long time that you were beyond saving. I intend to rid the world of the blight that is the Uchiha. Naruto shined forward, closing their distance in less than a second. Sasuke brought up his katana to block the aggressive slice, sparks flew as the 2 swords impacted. Naruto's mouth began to build up as if he was breathing in air and Sasuke knew that he was about to try something. His Sharingan whirling as he tracked Naruto's chakra, the Bluenet avoided the would-be head shot from the blonde's lava bullet. Lava? What is this from? Where the hell did you learn something like that, Dobe? Sasuke ground out, lightly panting from his quick sidestep of the attack. Naruto dug his great sword out of the ground where it had landed from Sasuke's sudden dislodge from their fight. He prepared himself in another aggressive sword stance and glared at his old teammate. Uzumaki bloodline, something you will never have or learn with those infernal eyes. Sasuke's eyes narrowed at the boy's insult of his clan's Kekii Genkai, even insinuating that his own blood trait was better than his own. What are you trying to say, Naruto? Are you telling me that your bloodline is better than mine? Naruto smirked, slamming his sword into the ground before going through a series of hand signs. That's exactly what I'm telling you Uchiha. Spoiled brat like you could never fully realize the real potential of your bloodline and use it for a good cause, but not everyone's perfect I suppose. What series of hand signs is this? I've never seen some of these hand seals in combination before. Can my Sharingan really not copy this? Let's see that wonderful Sharingan of yours track this. Lava release, crimson precipitation. Naruto slammed both his hands onto the ground and Sasuke could feel a large tremor that threatened to break his bones if he stood on the ground any longer. From the ground shot geysers of hot magma, the spurts of molasses fire shot into the air and formed dangerous raindrops of flames that fell on the battlefield. Naruto stood amongst the worst of the red rain, the thick precipitation harmlessly touching his person and dripping down to the ground only to melt the dirt at the blonde's feet. Sasuke dropped from the tree he had jumped to as it burst into flames, moving through the cover of the treeline and doing his best to dodge the dangerous attack. Even with his great speed and Sharingan abilities, Sasuke could not deflect all of the droplets and soon his entire outfit was littered with holes and burn marks. Naruto broke into a run to finish the troubled Uchiha and threw a three-pronged kunai at Sasuke, who was easily able to dodge the large object compared to Naruto's jutsu. However, before he knew what was happening, his arms had been pulled behind his back and his sword arm was forced to release his katana. Now unable to move, Sasuke was pelted with the lava which began to agonizingly melt the young Avenger. Sensing no other way out of his predicament, Sasuke willed the curse mark to appear and allowed the new skin and appendages to form over his body. It gave him some relief and a shield from the rain. Naruto had not seen this before and immediately released Sasuke, but not before using the gathered chakra in his foot to take hold of Sasuke's katana and flinging it away from their fight. The sword was impaled into a tree, leaving Sasuke even further downhill in the admittedly one-sided battle. Damn you! It's time to really begin this fight, Naruto. Sasuke went through a few quick hand signs before grasping his wrist. A familiar sound of chirping birds was heard from the collection of white chakra. Naruto remembered the technique and gathered up his own for a Rasengan, charging towards the other teen who was apparently still building up his attack. Still fueled by emotions, Sasuke? I had hoped you would learn to not rely on the curse mark, but I suppose it was inevitable. Sasuke charged towards the blonde but did not reach out his hand to meet Naruto's attack, instead moving under Naruto's outstretched hand and making a dash for his katana. Naruto stumbled forward and turned his head to find Sasuke about to reach his sword, the rain no longer affecting his mobility. Looks like I'll have to try something else. Naruto said to himself as he went through a sequence of hand signs, his lungs taking in a deep breath. Fire release, combustion ash cloud. A smog of ash came out of Naruto's opened mouth and flooded the area in front of him, hiding Sasuke in the fog. Naruto clicked his teeth just as Sasuke grabbed his sword, freeing it from the tree as if it was a knife cutting through butter. The explosion enveloped the cloud in front of Naruto, who stood undaunted by the large heat release. Just as he had thought Sasuke was dead, a small log came flying out of the smoke, revealing to Naruto that he had not defeated the other team yet. Damn, substitution. Feeling an incoming presence, Naruto twisted his sword arm and parried a lightning-quick strike from Sasuke, who appeared behind him. His katana had been aimed right at Naruto's kidney. Both were shaking from the sheer brunt of power they were deflecting from one another, and both were glaring at the other with thoughts on what it would take to kill the other. Sasuke's eyes widened when his sword at first failed to break through Naruto's own. He knew that even large swords were mere appetizers to lightning-enhanced weapons. He was tired and damaged from the fight, but it could not stop his fear when his Sharingan saw multiple glyphs and seals light up on Naruto's sword as his own chakra faded away. Containment seals? Where the hell did he learn these techniques? Jumping away from his enemy, Sasuke prepared one last attack for Naruto, as did he. Sasuke made the largest Chidori he could muster, and Naruto created two, remembering his last encounter with Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Naruto. Sasuke. Building up an unnoticeable chakra cloak from Kyuubi's power, Naruto was confident in his attack and launched himself towards his rival. Sasuke also charged with Chidori, confident that even with the previous actions of the fight that he could still beat Naruto. Naruto slammed his first Rasengan into Sasuke's Chidori before launching the second quickly at Sasuke's stomach, successfully hitting the boy. Naruto's first Rasengan was blasted straight through by Sasuke's Chidori and the attack grazed the blonde's left shoulder. The shock wave of the blasts and attack sent both combatants lurching backwards through the forest, landing very far from each other. Naruto impacted a tree, hard. His body almost went completely through it before he slowly slumped into unconsciousness from the sheer force of the move. Sasuke went through a tree and landed on the banks of a river, slowly sliding further into the murky water to where he would assuredly drown in his sleeping state. A red-haired elderly man came across the smoking body of Naruto and picked the boy up over his shoulder. He turned around to look in the direction of where the battle took place and where Sasuke had been shot towards. He then glanced up to see the seemingly endless red rain taper off. "Yanbi, are you sure this is the one?" "Yes, Rashi, this boy is the one that used the lava release. He also contains my brother, the Kyubi, looks like he might need a little help." "Ha ha ha." A loud, boisterous voice boomed in the older man's head, sounding mighty yet wizened. The Iwa Nin shrugged and began to walk off towards the nearby cave that had sheltered him the past few days, wondering if his life was about to get a little too exciting. Kirigakure, Uzumaki Darumi estate May awoke from her slumber that she had been in since she had arrived yesterday, feeling relieved but somewhat queasy. Rubbing her stomach in an effort to calm it down, she felt the sudden urge to puke and ran for the bathroom where she released her non-existent breakfast. Wiping her mouth with a towel and placing it in the washer, May racked her brain as to why for the past few days she had been feeling so sick in the morning. "Well, I did visit another country. Maybe there was a disease there that I contracted, dirty fire civilians probably." May scoffed at the thought. Naruto would have gotten sick as well, or at least she hoped. She had little trouble once she had arrived back from Konoha after a week. The people had not noticed and the council was strangely quiet about her unexpected leave. She had justified it as looking out for a fellow Kiri shinobi, but even so, she had expected the council to put up some fuss. "Oh well, maybe they are finally realizing that I can be a leader and just giving me free rein to do my duty." Finishing with her wardrobe for today, May walked down the steps to the front door and passed by the guards at the gate. She decided that she would go to the doctor to make sure that there was nothing wrong and that she could continue her job without fail. Arriving at the tall, spiral-shaped building with a medical cross imprinted at the top of its white length, May walked in and found the place to be quiet. The receptionist immediately realized her rank and had her go to a room already prepared and alerted the Mizukage that a doctor was on her way. Sitting in the room was boring but gave May more time to ponder just what it could be that ailed her so much. The doctor, a red-haired woman with gray eyes, soon walked through the door and greeted the Mizukage with an informal bow. "Hello Mizukage-sama, what brings you to the clinic today?" May smiled and told the woman of her nauseous feelings and also how she commonly had felt more fatigued than usual. "I'm not sure what it could be, although I do have a guess." She didn't even want to say what she thought, the idea was too absurd. The doctor smiled and went through a few hand signs. Her hands began to glow a faint green and they glided over May's skin with practiced precision. May absently noted that the hands lingered a few more seconds than usual over her stomach, something that brought her closer to the impossible alternative. The doctor was barely able to keep back a smirk as she pulled away. Her face was unreadable, which only unnerved May even more. "Well, doctor? Did you find what was wrong? From what I can tell, you are physically healthy. Everything checks out as normal and in theory there is nothing that should make you feel this way except," the doctor paused for a teasing dramatic effect. "Except?" May repeated, getting tired of the game. "Mizukage-sama, I am happy to tell you that you are pregnant." "Congratulations." May's eyes widened and her mouth gaped open. She was pregnant? "Pregnanto, you mean that?" she asked quietly. The doctor stopped smiling as if she said something wrong. Yes, I can sense another being's chakra signature growing within you. There was a small anomaly with the chakra but nothing serious. You do have a child, ma'am. Is that alright?" May moved her shaking hands to her belly, slowly rubbing the place where her and Naruto's child was growing. May looked up at the nervous doctor and smiled brightly. her eyes closed from the sheer intensity of happiness she was feeling. Yes, I think that's just wonderful. Grass country, cave. Naruto awoke with a start, rising up out of the makeshift bed he had been laid on and already searching for his weapons. He sprung out of the bed covers and took in his surroundings. He immediately noticed that he was in a dark room with a small fire in the middle of it. There was a figure near the fire that appeared to be staring at him with curiosity and amusement in the gaze. "Who are you?" Naruto demanded. The last thing he remembered was slamming into a tree after his fight with Sasuke. The unknown person slowly stood up and began to chuckle, holding up his hands in a mock defense of the crazed blonde. Now youngster dash, the old man started, his gravely voice filled the room with a booming effect. There is no need to overreact. I found you hurt in the forest and decided to help you out. Why would you do that? Better yet, how could you have survived my jutsu? Only an Uzumaki could dash. The man's eyes widened a bit at the sound of Uzumaki, but otherwise his smile led Naruto to believe nothing had happened. Jinchuriki have to stick together, right? Naruto's eyes widened. This man was a Jinchuriki? What's your name? What biju do you contain? Naruto's mind was working a mile a minute, trying to process the new information. Rashi decided that it was time for introductions and slowly approached the blonde before holding out his hand for a shake. The fire suddenly intensified its ministrations and the entire cave was now illuminated so Naruto could see his face. My name is Rashi and I contain the four-tailed monkey. And you are? Naruto blushed out of embarrassment. He had been so caught up in surprise he had forgotten his manners. I'm sorry Dash. Naruto shook the older man's hand. My name is Uzumaki Naruto and I contain the 9 tails, but I suppose you already knew that, didn't you? Rashi nodded, pointing to his stomach. Old Yonbi here told me where you were and we followed that lava rain you created. Nice move by the way. Don't know what happened to the other kid, but your shoulder was a bit beaten up after the last attack so I brought you here. You have been out for the past few hours. It's pretty late in the afternoon now. Damn it Rashi, stop calling me old. I may be stuck inside your old hide but that doesn't mean that you can just loop us together like that. Besides, I haven't encountered an Uzumaki for some time. The branch of monkeys that originate from me would rejoice to know there still are some left in the world. Yeah, Yehuri's still much older than me anyways. I have the feeling there is more to this meeting you set up between us. What exactly are you getting at? I want to speak with this boy, to discuss with him an ancient contract that has lain untouched for over 30 years. Ah, you mean the summoning contract? Thought you'd never break the damn thing out. About time is all I have to say. Naruto, my tailed beast would like to speak with you. Come over by the fire and sit down. I'll see if I can bring you into my mindscape. Naruto moved over to the fire and sat down, curious as to how Rashi was going to get him inside of his mind. Rashi sat down across from him and went into deep concentration, his eyes closed and his hands clasped together. After a few moments, Rashi moved his hand and placed a finger over Naruto's forehead and established the link between the two. Now relax your mind Naruto and follow the pull. He said quietly, instructing Naruto on the way to continue. Naruto closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths to calm himself and slowly began to feel a slight tug on his mind and allowed it to take him to its destination. Rashi's mindscape Naruto appeared in a similar setting to his own mindscape, a sewer room with 4 large red pipes heading through the wall over the door in front of him. Waiting a moment to see if Rashi would join him, Naruto shrugged and walked up to the door and opened it but was amazed at what was behind it. A large rain forest panned out in front of him, banana trees, ferns and other vegetation littered the landscape as far as the eye could see. Naruto looked up to see an actual sky and sun instead of the dark and dull sewer setting his own mind had. There were no other inhabitants or animal life as far as he could tell, but there was a clear-cut dirt path that he decided to follow to find the Yonbi. Walking through the misty and humid greenery, Naruto could hear faint screeches and howls that almost sounded like calls of a monkey. He figured it was just some effect that Yonbi or Rashi added in to add to the atmosphere. He had really done a great job. Man, if Kyubi saw this he would practically have a temper tantrum. I wonder what his homeland looks like. Maybe he is a native of fire. Nearing the end of the path, Naruto came across a large dirt clearing in what he guessed to be the middle of the forest and saw a red giant before him. The Yonbi sat with an enlarged banana that he was chomping on, his attention on it instead of the newly arrived Naruto. A representative image of Rashi was off to the side, waving slightly at Naruto to let him know that he was in the right spot. "Ah, Naruto, you have arrived. Did you enjoy the scenery?" Yonbi described it very vividly and said it would be his cage or he would refuse to help me. So easy to please this one is. The Yonbi threw what was left of the banana skin away and inclined his head to look at Naruto. Something that could be considered a grin reached the large monkey's lips. He should recognize it. This is what much of his home island's landscape looks like after all. Well, all the parts that don't have human cities over them anyways. Even then the Uzumaki respected and coexisted with the flora and fauna and the Yonbi continued to prattle on and on, losing track of the original thought. Rashi just hiked a thumb over his shoulder towards the big beast and mocked him. "You'll have to forgive the big guy, he is getting to that age." The Yonbi awoke from his rant and snorted, having heard his container's jibe. "You reached that age long ago, Rashi, so don't speak so high and mighty. I mean really, monkeys and humans have totally different age spans, Biju and humans have different age spans. Who are you?" Rashi kicked the large primate's leg which was able to get his attention. The older man glared at the beast. "Hey, you are losing track of the entire point of the mind meld. Get on with talking to him about the summoning contract already." The Yonbi scratched his head, slightly embarrassed. Right, I was getting to it, damn it. Naruto." The gorilla yelled at the blonde who had somewhat lost most of his attention to the conversation. "I would like to know how much you know of your ancestors and of your land. You appear to be a proud Uzumaki bloodline user at least, am I correct?" Yumi's Yonbi Naruto was interrupted when Yonbi burst out laughing. He held his gut in an attempt to stop laughing so hard. "There is no need to call me that, you have earned the right to simply call me Yonbi." Rashi smirked, not wanting to miss the chance to poke fun. "Or just Big Red, or maybe even Monkey, they're great nicknames." Yonbi glared at his container. "Although Rashi still should refer to me as Yonbi-sama." Naruto wanted to laugh at the two's interaction. Kyubi was not as light-hearted as his brother. "Go on, Naruto, just ignore Rashi." "Well, I know little of my ancestors or the history of my clan unfortunately, for I was not born on the home island or lived a life with my Uzumaki parent. I also have never visited the home island, however my fiancé and I plan on getting married there, so I suppose I will get to see it soon." Yonbi appeared to ponder this, stroking the tuft of hair that covered his chin. Rashi stayed quiet as he leaned up against a tree. "Echem. You know little of your history and grew up without a mother? Only a true Uzumaki could continue from such adverse beginnings. Good job, lad. Now then, tell me what an infant's intentions like yours are." Naruto was confused. Yonbi? What do you mean, intentions?" Yonbi growled a bit in frustration, beating a fist against his chest lightly to get his point across. "What you plan to do as an Uzumaki, I mean. I haven't heard of any Uzumaki clan for quite some time, or else I would have had my container march me there immediately." Rashi sighed. "He would try to make me go there, probably wouldn't happen though." The Yonbi scoffed and mumbled something about lazy old humans. "Well, actually my fiancé, who also happens to be an Uzumaki, has agreed to the idea of trying to bring back the Uzumaki. I haven't really made a concrete plan yet on how to do so, but I hope one day to unite the clan and move back to Yuzu Island. I'm curious though, what is your link to the Uzumaki, Yonbi?" Yonbi chuckled at this. "I'm glad you asked, boy, I was just getting around to it. Now, as I'm sure you know, there are many species of monkeys and primates in the world. Some are normal fauna that are unable to interact with humans or their own chakra, while others actively fight alongside humans as summons or sentient beings. The subspecies of monkey that inhabit your island of Yuzu are indirect descendants of myself, making them sentient and with the ability to manipulate chakra. Before I was sealed away, the Uzumaki had made a pact with me that was a mutual agreement between our two species. We would fight alongside your clan and in turn your people would not destroy our land or kill any of us. Do you know what this pact is called? Naruto's eyes widened. Could he mean a summoning contract? He all but whispered, too much in doubt to really believe it. Yanbi smiled, the boy was catching on. Yes, a summoning contract. I have it right here. It has not been signed in over 30 years, now that is a long time and it has been very disconcerting for me. I always liked your clan, strong and respectful if not a bit old-fashioned. Rashi chuckled. Look who's talking. Shut it, Rashi. Wait, you mean that there really is a subspecies of yourself? Yanbi nodded, seemingly unfazed at how rare it could be. Have you not heard of a monkey summon? Naruto nodded his head. The third Hokage had signed a contract with the Monkey King Enma. Naruto was interrupted by a bellowing howl by the Yanbi followed by Rashi shaking his head. Just had to say it, didn't you, Naruto? Naruto just looked at him confusedly and shrugged. So that youngster is still ruling the other primates? Ha! I am the true and rightful king of all monkeys, as I'm sure you can figure out quite easily. However, I chose to continue as a roaming Biju instead of rule over the primates. Enma was selected as the primary king, but my offspring never bowed to him. They could be considered excommunicated, I suppose. No need to worry, my children are much stronger than anything Enma could offer you, that much is for sure. Sir, if I may ask, since I'm not sure on your specific powers, what are your offspring's special abilities they gained from you? Yanbi smirked, as did Rashi. Naruto, aren't you curious as to how I survived your lava rain? Naruto scratched his head, he didn't really think about that part. I guess so. How? Isn't it obvious, boy? My subspecies of monkey descendants as can myself use lava release. Who else taught your great ancestors? Naruto's eyes widened. The monkeys were the ones who first introduced lava release to the Uzumaki? That's amazing. Was all he could say. Yanbi smirked. Yes, it is, thank you very much. Sometimes I think Rashi takes his Jinchuriki abilities for granted. It was Rashi's turn to snort at the comment. Getting back on topic, the summoning contract. Rashi got the big ape back on topic. Oh right, Naruto, would you like to continue the tradition all Uzumaki youth go through to sign the summoning contract? Naruto thought for a moment and then shrugged. Why not? Yes, I would like to earn my right to summon your kind, Yanbi. He then bowed his head in respect to the towering beast who was looking at the blonde human in amusement and wonder. Now that's the spirit. I like this boy, I'm glad I told you to meet him, Rashi. Yeah, the challenge? Rashi urged, seemingly used to the old monkey's off-topic trends. Yes, well, Naruto, you must travel deep into the forest and climb up the highest tree you can and find the ikamuzu fruit. It is a native fruit to Yuzu country and a delicacy for both our species. The fruit itself is a reddish-orange color and shaped vaguely like an apple. You will know when you find it. Now, the challenge should not be very difficult for you considering you are a trained shinobi and a wizened teenager. The test was mainly given to children when they were of age 12 and still academy students. It was much more of a challenge. Good luck, Naruto, we will be right here waiting for you. Naruto played over the description of the fruit and nodded to himself in recognition. He waved off to the two and pushed through the tree-lean foliage in search for the rare fruit. How long do you think it will take him to find it? Rashi and Yanbi watched as he left. Less than 5 minutes, that boy is a natural Uzumaki. This stuff is child's play because of the blood running through his veins. Rashi looked up into the gargantuan eyes of the primate and garnered a cocky smirk. I say over an hour, you ate so many of the damn things before he arrived it will take him forever to find it. Humph. We shall see, Rashi, and they were good. Very good. 1 hour later Naruto collapsed onto the muddy ground in sheer exhaustion. The trek through the mined forest wasn't as productive as he had thought. The search for the ikamuzu fruit was a difficult one indeed because all Naruto saw was brown or green and then more green. He had tried climbing up the trees but soon realized that it was impossible to use chakra and was forced to climb up the smooth trees with his bare hands, which ultimately failed. Sighing, Naruto looked up into the sky, which was perpetually sunny, and tried to think of a way to find the damn fruit. Feeling a bit of glare from the imaginary sun, Naruto shaded his eyes with his hand and looked to see a branch above him with a single fruit, and it was red. Grinning with anticipation, Naruto sat up and jumped for the branch only to realize that it was way too far out of his reach. Frustrated, Naruto began to run up the tree and found a handhold, slowly making his way up to the branch. Wow, being a civilian must suck. Climbing trees without chakra, how primitive. Finally reaching the branch, Naruto began to reach for the tantalizing prize. Halfway there, the branch began to wobble from the increased weight being placed on it and forcing Naruto to tighten his grip. 3/4 of the way on the branch was too much and it caused the entire thing to come crashing down to the ground, Naruto included. Hitting the ground with a large thud, the last thing Naruto remembered was a red comet coming straight for his face and a lot of pain. 1 hour later, so, does that count? Naruto asked, nursing his broken nose and holding the bruised fruit with his hand. Rashi and Yonbi looked at one another and nodded, agreeing that it did in fact count. Nice job, Naruto, I knew you could do it. Yes, now I believe it's time for you to sign the contract. Have you signed one before? Naruto nodded. He had signed the Toad contract, although he didn't know if it was still valid. Which one, if I may ask? The Toad contract. The Toads? An interesting choice. Yonbi seemed a bit amused by the strange choice, but Naruto explained. My first mentor made me sign it when he trained me, about the only real technique he taught me. Yonbi nodded a bit. Alright, just sign in blood right here. Yes, perfect. That is some nice handwriting. He uttered. Well, that does it for the mind meld. Anything else you would like to say, oh great Monkey King? Yonbi growled again, not amused by the joke. Humph. Good luck, Naruto, I hope to see you again soon. It was pleasure meeting the Uzumaki heir, and I hope you bring both our people's glory back to greatness once again. I will, Yonbi, I promise. Grass Country, Cave. Naruto awoke with a start. The fire had gone out and he could no longer see his surroundings. Getting up, Naruto started to make his way towards a dim light that shone through the cave and saw it to be the cave's mouth where Rashi stood. Naruto noted that the man's eyes were suspiciously shifting back and forth, as if he were watching for something or someone. Noticing Naruto walk up, Rashi greeted the boy with an uneasy wave and a half-hearted smile. Well, Naruto, I think you are all better. From what I remember, you said that you have a fiancée, and I don't think she will like you waiting around forever now, do you? Naruto nodded, agreeing with that decision. The last time he had run off from Mei, she had beaten him to a pulp in the hospital. Yeah, I suppose you're right, I'll go get my gear and then I can leave. Naruto ran back into the cave and using a simple fire jutsu was able to illuminate the area and find his vest and pouches and his great sword. Alright, I'm ready to head on back to Kiri. Oh, before I forget, Naruto dug into his kunai pouch and handed a 3-pronged kunai to Rashi, who took it confusedly. The Yondaime Hokage's kunai? You must be his son, you look very much like him. Naruto nodded and smiled, scratching the back of his head. In case you are in trouble or Akatsuki comes your way, just throw the kunai into the ground or a tree and I'll come back. Rashi stiffened at the sound of Akatsuki but otherwise just nodded and smiled. Alright Naruto, you better get going, I hope we get to meet again someday. Naruto was a bit curious as to why the old man was trying to get rid of him but played it off as him wanting to leave as well. See ya, Rashi. Naruto said with a wave before he disappeared in a yellow flash, leaving Rashi to deal with the new arrivals. Konoha, Hokage-sama, Team Kakashi has arrived at the gates. It looks like they came back empty-handed. Shizun reported to an irate Tsunade. Damn, this complicates things. She quietly brooded until Yamato's group arrived in front of her for debriefing. "Report," she ordered tersely. "Ma'am, we have some news for you. Grass country, look here Itachi. The 4 tails is here and the 9 tails just left, 2 beasts in the bag for us today." Kisame yelled out. The 2 had arrived in the clearing in front of the cave just after Naruto had left in a yellow flash. Rashi glared at the 2 and took a few steps forward, holding both hands in front of him in a defensive measure. "You'll have to go through me before you get to Naruto." Itachi looked at Kisame and then back to Rashi. "Now Kisame, we should take our time. I don't believe we will be able to catch up to Naruto so quickly. The jutsu he used is a very advanced one indeed." Kisame scoffed and took off Samahata from his back, preparing for battle. "I call dibs on this one Itachi, just stand back and watch." Itachi just took a few steps back to allow the 2 fighters their dueling arena. Rashi looked at the kunai in his hands, having an internal struggle with himself. "If I throw it, Naruto and I could try to defeat both of them together. If I don't, Naruto will live to fight another day and I will be taken and killed for my Biju. I'm not sure if Naruto can handle these 2, even with my and our Biju's help. It might be best to just not call for help. We must keep that boy alive, he has a destiny to fulfill, I could sense it." "You are pretty loyal to the Uzumaki, aren't you Yanbi?" "It's not just that, I think Naruto has a future worth seeing. One you are willing to sacrifice yourself for?" "Damn right I am willing. If we can break a few limbs on our way to hell, then we are in agreement." Taking one last look at the wonderful craftsmanship of the blade, Rashi threw it up into the air in front of his face and shot a single lava bullet at it, effectively destroying his distress beacon. "By destroying it, I can stop Akatsuki from using it against Naruto." I wonder why he did that," Kisame mumbled, not understanding the weapon or the jutsu behind it. "Well, are you ready then?" Rashi called out, pulling out his custom-made curved kunai that he used. Kisame smirked and started running towards the bearded man, intent on taking the delicious 4 tails chakra. Rashi smiled, even he knew he could not win this battle against the 2 opponents. He was buying time that gave Naruto a chance to escape. "Good luck Naruto, I know that you have a great future coming. I only wish I could live to see it." Kirigakure, Uzumaki Darumi Estate. Naruto arrived at the gate and had suddenly had an ominous feeling in his chest, as if something horrible just happened. Patting himself lightly, Naruto tried to get past the sinking feeling and opened the doors to his estate, the time being late evening and Kiri and his Mei should be home. Looking in on the living room first, he saw Mei just sitting there and staring at her stomach. Confused as to why she was paying so much attention to it, Naruto knocked on the wall and got her attention towards him. She began to smile but she looked very hesitant. "Hello Mayheim, I'm home," he said simply, waiting to get chewed out by his fiancée. "Hello Naruto-kun, welcome back," she replied, patting the couch next to her. Naruto gulped and went to sit down next to her, moving his arm over her shoulders and bringing her close for a kiss. "Naruto, I have some news." Naruto was intrigued, he looked into her eyes and saw them trembling. "What's the news? Did something happen while I was away?" She nodded, taking his hand and moved it over her stomach. Confused by the action, Naruto tried tickling her and got a giggle before she slapped his hand playfully to stop. "Naruto, am pregnant." His eyes widened. "Pregnant? Pregnant." Grass country, river, aftermath of battle. As Sasuke began to slip into the water, a trio of figures came out of the trees and jumped down. The apparent leader walked up to the ailing Uchiha and roughly pulled him up by the arm, eliciting a groan from the boy. Placing a glowing hand over his head, the man nodded to his 2 subordinates, to which one of them moved a hand over their ear. "Sir, the package has been taken. I repeat, the bargaining chip is ours." "Orders?" The crackle of the radio quieted as the 3 waited for their superior to come back. "Return to base immediately, Leader Sama is pleased." The one carrying Sasuke slung the teen over his shoulder and started off in a run towards their destination. Why does leader want this Uchiha? What is so special about the traitor? One of the men asked, to which he was replied with a grunt. Humph. The leader is an expert at diplomacy and is very clever. He obviously has a plan for this one and that strange masked man. Kirigakure, Uzumaki Terumi estate, pregnant? Naruto exclaimed, not believing what he was hearing. Mei giggled a bit and nodded, pointing at her stomach where his hand still laid. Our baby is growing right inside of me, isn't it wonderful? Naruto just went from looking at her to her stomach before putting his hand onto his forehead. Oh boy. And with that, our brave hero fainted, something which many young dads can attest to. Mei just watched as her fiancé slumped into the couch and wanted to break out laughing, not at all feeling worried. She knew that Naruto was happy, overjoyed even that they were having a baby. It was just a very big shock. Settling for laying the big blonde down on the couch in a more comfortable position with his head on her lap, Mei was content with just waiting for him to wake up before they talked about the great news. After some time, her Naruto began to awaken and she gave him some space as he collected himself. Looking over at the red head, Naruto tried to remember why he fainted in the first place and then he looked at her stomach and remembered. Mei was afraid he was going to faint again but started to smile when he hesitantly placed a hand over her stomach and began to rub it, tickling her a bit. Right here? Naruto asked. He received a nod. What do you think, Naruto-kun? Are you happy? Naruto looked into her worried eyes and just smiled, placing his other hand on her cheek. Of course I am, Mayheim. I was just so surprised at the suddenness that it overloaded my brain. Do we know if it will be a boy or girl? Mei shook her head. Too early to find out, darling, we will just have to wait. Naruto didn't look disappointed as he just looked at her stomach. It doesn't matter. Boy or girl, both will be perfect with their mother's genes. Mei smiled and moved a hand to Naruto's face, rubbing his whiskers. Can't forget the father's cuteness factor. If they have these whiskers I might just die. They both laughed at that, happy that they were getting another family member. Kirigakure, Uzumaki Terumi training grounds. Naruto stood in the middle of the field preparing for his first summoning attempt of a lava monkey. All in all he was pretty excited. Going through the universal hand signs of summoning, Naruto slammed his bloodied hand onto the ground and watched with satisfaction as a sizable puff of smoke appeared. Summoning technique. From the smoke came two creatures, not one as Naruto was expecting. There stood a moderately sized lava monkey somewhat taller than Naruto himself. He stood with all four palms on the ground. Next to him appeared none other than Gamakichi, who looked confused until he set his eyes on Naruto. Yo! Hey Naruto, it's been forever since I saw you. Naruto scratched the back of his head, confused. Uhi Gamakichi, what are you doing here? Gamakichi looked at him as if he were an idiot. Because you summoned me, why else? Naruto pointed to the irate lava monkey next to him, to which Gamakichi gulped and took a few steps away from. Uzumaki-sama, may I ask why there is a toad here? Naruto looked at the primate and found it in an interesting outfit. It had plate armor on its arms and legs, and the most important part was that a Nyuzu headband was around its neck showing its only loyalty. Its appearance was that of a tiny Yonbi without the four tails, only a single one was behind it. Toads were my first summon, although I'm just as confused as how I was able to summon both of you at the same time. The monkey seemed to ponder this while Gamakichi was beyond confused. Naruto, how did you get another summons? Naruto pointed at the lava monkey. This is a lava monkey, the loyal Uzumaki clan summons, and I came across their boss who gave me the contract. The lava monkey stopped thinking and looked at Naruto, practically going crazy with anxiousness. You met our leader, Yonbi-sama? Naruto nodded. How is he? Is he okay? Yeah? The lava monkey seemed to calm down and wiped some sweat off his brow. That's good, we haven't had any contact with him for so long. I think it's been over 50 years since we last had fought alongside him. Well, I need to work this out, so how are we going to prevent a double summoning from happening again? Gamakichi looked at the monkey and they both nodded to one another before looking back at Naruto. Choose. They said simultaneously, not giving Naruto much of a choice. Choose? You mean choose one of you? They both nodded, neither happy with the outcome. But two like both of you. I'm sorry Uzumaki-sama, but to prevent double summoning you must pick one of us so the other may remove you from the contract. It's the only way. Is there a way that I would still be able to visit the one that I don't choose? Gamakichi nodded. We could always put a little seal on you that allows us to summon you to Myobokuzen if we ever need you. The monkey nodded as well. We have a similar use for transporting you to our homes on Yuzu Island if that is your choice. Gamakichi, I am sorry but I made a promise to Yonbi, I have to choose the lava monkeys. Gamakichi nodded and smiled a bit, he had figured Naruto would pick them anyways. Alright Naruto, you don't have to worry about it with me but I'm sure Dad is gonna be mighty pissed off. Here, Thesis the seal that will allow us to summon you. Don't worry, it won't happen very often, only if something important is happening that concerns you. Right, thanks for understanding Gamakichi. See ya. And with that, the toad was gone, leaving the monkey and Naruto to discuss what's next. Good choice if I may, so Uzumaki-sama, your ancestors would be pleased. Naruto just nodded, not sure if Gamakichi was genuine in his goodbye. So Hat is your name? The monkey slapped himself on the forehead, how could he forget his manners? Sorry Uzumaki-sama, my name is Yomura, it is a pleasure to meet you. The monkey held out its large paw for a shake and Naruto awkwardly gripped it. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the pleasure is mine Yomura. Now tell me, what has happened with the lava monkeys while the Uzumaki have been away? The monkeys have survived, sir, but we do miss our old friends. Without Yonbi-sama to guide us or the Uzumaki to follow, we have sat idle for the past 30 years. I was excited when I received the call of a summon and now here I stand before another Uzumaki, praise Yonbi. Naruto scratched the back of his head, not sure of what to make of it. Well, I have an Uzumaki wife as well and a child on the way. Is there any way we could get her to sign the contract as well? The monkey was surprised at first to hear of more Uzumaki but quickly regained his composure. Of course Naruto-sama, I have a copy of the contract here with me. There is this little tradition back on Yuzu Island but it really isn't necessary. All she has to do is sign it and when your infant is at the right age, it can sign as well. Perfect. Would you like to come with me to get her? Naruto-sama, are you inviting me into your home? Naruto nodded, not getting what is the big deal. I have never been inside a human house before, you are most generous. Naruto patted the large monkey on his shoulder and led him inside. Oh Mayheim. I have a visitor here that has some words he would like to speak to you. Yomura sat on his two bottom legs and nervously twiddled his fingers with much anxiousness. Naruto noticed his trepidation and sought to quell it. Don't worry, she is very sweet. The monkey looked convinced until it looked up the stairs and seemed to shrink. Naruto looked up there to see Mei with a familiar, too happy smile on her face, pointing at the monkey. Oh, Naruto, what is a monkey doing in our house? Naruto gulped, motioning to the large monkey. This is Yomura and he has come from Yuzu Island through a summoning to ask that as an Uzumaki if you would sign the summoning contract. Mei's eyes softened when she heard that and slowly moved down the stairs to stand before the two. Immediately, Yomura moved to bow low but was stopped by Mei herself. Uzumaki-sama, please forgive me for my rude dash. Mei held up a hand for quiet, silencing the monkey. There is no need for apologies, it was my own overreaction that led to this. I'm sorry to worry you Yomura, I will gladly sign the lava monkey contract. The monkey smiled and brought out a scroll with the names of a few dozen remaining Uzumaki on it, giving Naruto an interesting idea for later. Just sign right here in blood there. Beautiful handwriting by the way, Matriarch Sama. Mei and Naruto's eyes widened at the sound of that. What do you mean by the matriarch, Yomura? Naruto asked, receiving a bit of a flustered look from the primate. Oh, I'm sorry if that was not the proper title for your female Naruto-sama. I just assumed that because you are the first to summon us in the last 30 years that you were the heads of the current Uzumaki family. Please forgive my wrongful assumptions. Naruto and Mei looked at each other in surprise. So are the first to contact you in the past 30 years? Mei asked incredulously, not believing that such a famous summon would go unused. The monkey merely nodded and took on a sullen form. Yes, Uzumaki-sama, my people have felt as though we have been shunned or failed the Uzumaki somehow and that this is our punishment. From your confusion, I suspect you know little of other Uzumaki statuses? They both nodded their heads. No other Uzumaki were known to the two of them. Well, that is a shame. Perhaps in time, we can work together to unite the Uzumaki with the help of my summoning contract here. Now then, I believe this summoning has been completed and I shall return home until I am summoned again. Naruto-sama, we may summon you soon so you may see our Crimson Backs or our leaders to discuss with them your further training as the Uzumaki Patriarch. Naruto was confused. Training, Patriarch? Wait, what do you mean by training? The monkey looked at him for a moment as if he were stupid before he changed to a more friendly face. Your lava training, the Crimson Backs will teach you our way of converting geothermal energy into strength and power, a secret power known only to the Yonbi's descendants. You will come to learn more in time. The monkey disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving a confused couple of Uzumaki. Okay, Kirigakure, Mizukage Suite. One day later, Mei sat at her desk in her normal attire, going through a few documents while she waited for Naruto to arrive. She had received a priority message from the Hokage that his brother, Killer Bee, had requested Naruto's presence for a training exercise. Seeing nothing wrong with it, Mei allowed it to go through and now she just had to see him off. Mizukage-sama, you requested my presence? She looked up to see her fiancé. He had dressed in his normal Kiri Jounin attire for the trip. Yes, I have a mission that will send you to Kumo for some training alongside Killer Bee. Naruto was intrigued by this. The last time he saw Killer Bee was when he first visited Kumo with Yujito. They had met briefly during his week of training there. Did it say what kind of training? Mei nodded her head, handing the message over to Naruto. Reading it, his eyes widened when he saw the word underlined at least a dozen times by someone who had to be Killer Bee. Rap training. Mei held back her laugh as she watched Naruto panic at the idea of rapping with Killer Bee. Now, calm down, Naruto. I'm sure that you can talk him into some real training after he has done whatever he is going to do with you and rapping. Naruto wasn't feeling any better. Yujito had many horror stories she told of him and he didn't like remaining in the same room for too long. Look on the bright side, it pays A rank because Killer Bee insisted that it was a very important mission. You can use it to go buy us some baby clothes, and a crib, and dash. Naruto interrupted her with his hands held up in defense. Okay, I get it. I'm going, but I won't like it. Naruto began to walk towards the door but stopped when he remembered something. Oh, before I forge there, this is the list I made that you asked for. I'll oversee the preparations after my mission is complete. Naruto left off as he disappeared behind the office's door. Mei smiled at his memory and looked at the list. Naruto had compiled all the names of the remaining Uzumaki and now it was Mei's job to find them. Pulling out the large scroll with the census, Mei started looking, already knowing this was going to be a long day. Konoha, Hokage office, Tsunade, along with the information supplied by Yamato's team, I have confirmed the fact that Danzo has entered Amigakure for his future base of operations. Please allow me to go and find out exactly what he is planning. It could be vital for the Kiri-Konoha alliance. Jiraiya stood in front of Tsunade, hoping to get permission to infiltrate the rainy country for intel. Tsunade's eyes widened as she knew he was determined. Why the hell would he want to go there himself? Jiraiya, the situation in that country is too risky. Why can't you just use your spy network to gather information? I already tried that, Tsunade, my spies either have trouble smuggling the information to me from inside the country or they are caught in the process of gathering it. I no longer have a viable network in the country and now it's up to me to find what we need. Will you allow me to do it? You understand the risks, don't you? Jiraiya scoffed. Of course he did. I am one of the Sannin, remember? I can take anything the old coot can throw at me. We will have what we need when I get back. See ya, Tsunade-chan. Jiraiya was gone in a puff of smoke, not even waiting for her final approval. Damn idiot, be safe, she said as she looked out the window in the direction he disappeared to. Kumogakure outskirts, Killer Bee's training grounds. Okay B, what is this rap training that you want me to help you with? Naruto and Bee were standing on a large circular platform with Bee's hideaway a little higher up the mountain they were on. Bee scratched the back of his head, a bit nervous. He pulled out his rhyme book and got out a pencil but didn't write anything. I'm having some trouble thinking of my rhymes. Yeah. I need your help to find something that rhymes with double. Naruto racked his brain for the answer to the simple request. Trouble? That seemed to spark something in the older man's eyes and he furiously began to write in his rhyme book. Get this. Gotta go on the double, before I get in trouble, float away in a bubble, 'cause I float like butterfly and sting like a bee 'cause I'm Kurabi. Naruto just sweat dropped, propping up a thumbs up for the man's mediocrity. Unus one? Killer Bee noticed Naruto still standing there and ran up to him and gave him a giant bear hug as thanks. Thanks to you my little blonde friend I have new rhymes. Now I'm in a good mood, so how about we train for real and I can help you with the training that I promised to give you when you were first here. Yeah. Naruto was confused. What training was that? What do you mean, training? I don't remember. The training with multiple swords, Naruto, remember? You were so hyped up on my super awesome style that you wanted to learn too. First we gotta get my man here some swords and something to put 'em in. Bee ran up into his home away from home and disappeared for over 5 minutes, leaving Naruto just sit there astounded at the man's memory. Just when he thought the man passed out or got lost, he came back out with 9 swords and a back holder for all of them that allowed Naruto to reach them easily. My students on Team Samui could never learn how to use multiple swords, or at least not very well. I think you're going to be my first student to actually pass the class. Oh yeah. He helped. Naruto fastened the holder onto his back and instructed him on how to remove all the swords at the same time. Like this? Instead of removing the swords completely, Naruto just loosened them in their slots seeing as he did not yet know how to hold them all. Yeah, like that. I used 7 swords but I thought since you got the 9 tails that you should get 9 swords, yeah. Let's see. He had Naruto stand in a very awkward position and just started placing swords between his joints. He even stuck one in his mouth. After the 7th one was placed, he took a few steps back to admire his handiwork. That's my exact stance. Now where to place the other ones? Naruto was sweating bullets, hoping that Bee would find a decent spot for them. After much indecision, Bee chose to place the last 2 in Naruto's open hands, effectively having him hold all 9 blades. Naruto was unable to hold the stance however and fell over to the ground, making Bee face palm. Naruto, you're supposed to be able to stand when you fight. Yeah. How the hell am I supposed to balance that? Well, I suppose I could teach you that part. Yeah, probably be better if we started with that. Kumogakure outskirts, 5 days later. Okay, you know the stance but can you dig it? Naruto's sweat dropped for the 1000th time being in Kumo. You mean can I use it? Killer Bee scratched the back of his head. Yeah, that. Well, let's get started. I have some stuff I have to do in Kiri and it has a timetable. Killer Bee seemed pleased enough and pulled out his own swords quickly. Naruto did the same. Both opponents stared at each other before Killer Bee started the battle by jumping towards Naruto. Meeting the charge with one of his own, Naruto launched into the air and twisted his left arm towards Bee's form. The two clashed their blades, the battle becoming a game of who could push the other back until Naruto became a little too unpredictable. Contrary to the style B had taught him, Naruto maneuvered his right leg and kicked the other man away from him. Charging forward, Naruto dodged 3 swords thrown by B and flipped upside down to confuse B while he switched the positioning of his swords, but the other blonde was not fooled. Charging forward quickly, B took the blades from Naruto mid-stride and held his mouth blade right up to Naruto's neck while the rest threatened to penetrate his center mass. While Naruto lost the sword battle, by releasing his swords it gave him the chance to form a perfect Rasengan that threatened to tear right through B's defenses. Looking down, B noticed this as well and smirked, releasing his weapons and handing back Naruto's. That was sweet. Your swordsmanship will need a lot of work to keep up with the master, but you got style, kid. Placing his weapons back in their correct holsters, Naruto bowed to his sensei. Thanks B, I think. Yeah. Whenever I need you for more of those sick rhymes, I'll call ya. Alright. Don't push yourself. Naruto left in a flash of yellow to go visit a place that he should have gone to a long time ago. Man, I gotta learn how to do that. Yuzu Shores. Naruto walked up along the shoreline towards the mainland, cutting through the dense foliage. He was looking for Uzumaki, the hidden village where he expected his clan's living quarters were. Realizing that this was going to get him nowhere, Naruto went through a few hand signs and slammed his hand down onto the ground to make a puff of smoke appear. The familiar face of Yomura appeared and it gave Naruto more confidence that his mission would be a success. Ah, Naruto-sama, good to see you. Why have you summoned me though? I need your help finding the ruins of Uzumaki. I need to start fixing it up. Yomura heard that and smiled. While I admire your mission, sir, I'm afraid that you can't fix it up. Why is that? Naruto inclined his head towards Yomura in a suspicious gaze. It's because the monkeys have already fixed the cities for you, in hopes that you would return. I can show you Uzumaki if you wish though, it is a beautiful city for humans anyway. Alright, why not? Naruto followed the monkeys' lead as they explored the jungles and slowly started to reach the city. Naruto was amazed by the amount of animal life though, it seemed every few steps you took there were lava monkeys in sight or even other animals. When the foliage began to thin out, Naruto knew that they had almost arrived, but he was not expecting the sight before him. Uzumaki gates, what is this? Yomura had led him to what appeared to be the eastern whirlpool fields of Yuzu country. Yomura spread his arms wide in front of him, amplifying the sheer grandeur of the moment. Thesis Uzumaki. Naruto looked around confusedly, all he could see were multiple whirlpools that were huge, ship-eaters in size. They currently stood on the shore, but Yomura began to walk across the water without fail or worry. Naruto soon followed and the two were soon standing in the middle of the dangerous fields. That was the first defense. If we had not been who we were, the whirlpools would have sucked us in. Now for the entrance. Suddenly Yomura jumped into the nearest and largest whirlpool before allowing himself to be sucked away. At first Naruto thought he had fallen in on accident but soon realized that this was the so-called gate of Uzumaki. Naruto felt himself being tugged by the strong currents and could tell he was moving towards the island. Naruto tried to open his eyes to see where he was going and found the currents were leading through tunnels that had been dug out under the island. Entering through one of them, Naruto could feel the heat rise and could only guess that there was volcanic activity on the island. Feeling the current change, Naruto was now being pulled upwards towards the surface. A bright light was above him. Uzumaki coming out of the giant geyser, Naruto felt himself launch into the air a few moments before landing sorely on his bottom. Yomura stood off to the side, patiently waiting for the Uzumaki to gather himself. Ah! You have arrived, how did you like the ride? Naruto slowly stood up while nursing his hurt backside. Is that the only entrance to Uzumaki? Yomura looked at him curiously before shaking his head. No, if you know the right direction, you can walk here from the shores. There is an elaborate genjutsu that will only fall if you are an Uzumaki or monkey, otherwise it seems like you're just walking through more forest. Good, because I don't want to do that again. The red primate shrugged. I suppose it's more popular with the children then. The whirlpool fields are popular spots. I'll bet. Wow. Naruto finally took notice of the city before him and was amazed at its style and somewhat familiarity. We are here, the home of your ancestors, Uzumaki. Naruto took notice that most of the buildings were painted red or orange, bright vibrant colors littered the view. The city building structure was similar to Kiri's because the buildings were in cylindrical shapes for the most part, except for a few that seemed to be very important. Naruto looked closely at the Japanese-style castle that had Yuzu swirls adorned on it and figured it to be the head clan's building. Naruto looked behind himself to find a large wall that prevented access to would-be travelers. The Uzumaki really didn't like outsiders apparently. I hope the monkeys did a good job with your city, Naruto-sama. We have had over 50 years of solitude, so this was one of the few things we could do. How does it look? Naruto walked along the main street a bit, followed closely by his guide. Well, I don't know what it looked like before. Booty like it. It feels very familiar while at the same time very new. Your people did a wonderful job. I can't wait to move in. Yomura's eyes widened. He was coming to live here? Naruto-sama, do you mean that you will come back here to live? Naruto turned to the monkey and nodded. Praise Yonbi. Hopefully more Uzumaki will follow. We can be a true family again. Naruto looked up into the sky, wondering how Mei was doing. Hopefully, Amigakure Toad came up for a peek at land, looking around to see if it could find anyone. It was currently in a large body of water that surrounded the city, keeping most travelers well away from it. Opening its mouth, the toad allowed the man that had been tagging along to come out of hiding. Jiraiya slowly pulled himself out from inside the small amphibian and took a look at his surroundings. It was raining, so he pulled on a cloak that would allow him to move throughout the city without being recognized. Just as he was beginning to walk off towards the lights of the festival, the toad had a final question. Jiraiya-sama, are you sure this is a good idea? Surely we could find the information you need another way? Jiraiya looked back at the small animal and smiled, hiking a thumb at himself. Ah, come on, have a little more faith in me, will ya? I am the Toad Sage and Sannin Jiraiya. I think I can handle it. Don't worry, I'll be back out soon with all the information we need. Jiraiya quickly turned around and began to walk. His smile had left him and a frown had settled on his face. I'm not sure what it is, but now I'm starting to get the feeling this mission is different than the others. Oh, look at me, I'm letting the others' doubts get to me. I'll be back drinking sake with Tsunadeheim in no time, just watch. Amigakure, Festival. Jiraiya stalked through the crowd of AIM citizens, silently observing the holiday arrangements. He would go to the occasional shop and sample their wares, ask simple questions and try and get what he needed out of them. As he walked amongst them, Jiraiya felt just how alien he was. Standing with them. This isn't working, these people are too suspicious of foreigners. I'm like an outsider. The old pervert moved off to the side and found a bench, deciding to take a break from his investigations. His eyes wandered from suspicious persons to beautiful ladies, slowly beginning to drool over the forbidden fruit. I wonder if there are any pleasure places here. Such a gold mine in a country locked in civil war, and I am the first man to find it from the outside. I stake my claim. Just as Jiraiya was about to chase a particular piece of fine ass, he noticed a peculiar figure walk past him. This particular person stood out because his mask wasn't a civilian design, it was a Konoha design. Furthermore, with his experience, Jiraiya could tell the bulges under the man's cloak were his weaponry. This led him to one conclusion: this was a root operative that was operating inside an enemy city. Standing up, Jiraiya began to trail the man who was sticking mainly to populated areas. After a few more minutes of aimless wandering, Jiraiya noticed another similar figure begin to walk alongside the man. A few minutes later another joined. The trend continued until there was at least half a dozen of them walking loosely with one another. What are they up to? The 6 identified ANBU were now going down an alleyway, void of anyone else other than themselves and a white-haired spy. Concealing himself with a simple chameleon technique, Jiraiya watched as one went up to a wall and pressed inward. The assortment of pipes shook and rose, revealing a passage. All 6 quickly went inside, with a close by Jiraiya following on their toes. They led him through multiple passages, all kept professionally quiet as they approached their command center. Entering through the last passage, all 7 walked into a large room with a conference table in the center of it, some sort of meeting room. Jiraiya moved off to a wall, to be the fly on the wall during the inevitable meeting. His eyes widened as the 6 root operatives threw off their trademark white cloaks for a sinister revelation to show. They were wearing Akatsuki cloaks underneath them. My god, that old bastard really did it. He joined Akatsuki and brought his men with him. His thoughts were interrupted when previously unseen doors opened and it revealed Danzo walking with 3 figures into the room. The root soldiers had taken up security places around the room, watching all 4 carefully. Danzo, I see your men have taken up their new colors well, said the man with the orange mask. He seemed suspicious to Jiraiya. Danzo himself ran his available hand over his new cloak, particularly tracing the red clouds. Yes, well, I must admit they are wonderful colors. Besides, I told you we joined forces, correct? That was all the proof Jiraiya needed. Danzo was now a criminal among the Akatsuki. You are sure about this, sir? Allowing an ex-Konoha shinobi to just waltz in here and join us? A strangely shaped man with what looked to be a Venus flytrap. Seems to be second in command, and for a while now. No one would have the balls to interrupt a leader of a criminal organization just like that. Well, Danzo does know how to make quite a bargain. He gave me an army and an apprentice. The 2 figures opposite Danzo and Toby shifted uncomfortably. Who is this apprentice? Sir, can we trust the Uchiha to come with us willingly? After all, he was under the command of Orochimaru when we picked him up, said the man with a large sword on his back. His face was very similar to that of a shark. That must be Kisame Hashigaki, the demon of the mist. And what was that about Uchiha? They couldn't mean Sasuke, could they? How the hell did they manage to take him from Orochimaru so easily, and why? Oh, once I reveal a few things to the boy, I'm sure he will come along to our side. Besides, we'll always have Itachi with us to serve as a contingency plan. The other 3 grunted in agreement to Toby. On to the next order of business. Kisame, you and Itachi recently arrived with the 4 tails and it was successfully extracted. How many does that make under our control? The plant man spoke up to answer the leader. That makes 3, sir. We are currently tracking the 3 and 6 tails. I am also monitoring the 9 tails as you requested. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Naruto. Good, I will begin to order Pain into position soon. Kisame, I trust that you will be able to handle your duty when the time comes to capture the 8 tails. Kisame smirked, nodding his head confidently. Yes, I believe I will be up to the task. Toby nodded and stood up, casting a suspicious eye at the direction Jiraiya was in. Now that the meeting is over, Madara's Sharingan eye swirled angrily. It's time we take care of the spy. It all seemed to happen in slow motion too. Jiraiya, one moment all 4 were sitting at the table and the next they had sprung up and started charging towards him. Quickly ducking back into the passage, Jiraiya ran for his life, knowing that even he could not outfight the men that were chasing him. Were there really this many turns when we were coming this way? Damn it, I may have to summon the Toad Sage to get out of this. Rounding another corner, Jiraiya sighed in relief when he saw rain pelting the ground and looked up to see the sky. Having his escape route, Jiraiya began his run up the pipes when the water turned into a waterfall and pushed him down the pipes to land back on the ground. Water release, great waterfall. Kisame announced triumphantly, stopping the would-be escape in its tracks. Jiraiya quickly recovered and glared at the man. He was the only one present. Knowing the other 3 en route cronies were not far behind, Jiraiya knew he could not stay. Gathering a large Rasengan in his palm, Jiraiya charged Kisame, who only brought his greatsword in front of him and held it to the approaching Rasengan. Jiraiya quickly noticed the jutsu losing strength and switched tactics, going through hand signs for his ultimate speed attack. Hair Needle Barrage. Kisame's eyes changed to a playful look as he lazily brought his sword up to deflect the attack, destroying most of the attack while a few needles penetrated his flesh. Ouch, was this supposed to give me a reason to get out my tweezers? Jiraiya gritted his teeth and slammed a smoke bomb onto the ground, quickly running towards the top but was stopped by a flash of orange in front of him. Where do you think you are going? Konohagakure, Hokage office 1 week later, Tsunade-sama. Shizune came running through the office door to alert Tsunade of the Toad presence in Konoha. Tsunade and her visitor turned to look at Shizune, who had made an unnecessary uproar in the middle of their meeting. Shizune saw Fukasaku had already shown himself and quietly dismissed herself, thoroughly embarrassed. As you were saying, Fukasaku-sama? Tsunade requested, intent on hearing any news on the missing Jiraiya. The Toad sage sighed and looked at Tsunade with remorse in his eyes. We have yet to contact Jiraiya since he went into AIM, however, he has sent us a message that contains info on Akatsuki. We received it soon after he arrived in AIM, but no Jiraiya-chan. I'm not sure what has happened to him. Tsunade quickly swallowed her fears and took the scroll from the Toad and began to read. Her eyes widened when she saw the many revelations written on the parchment. Sasuke had been abducted from Orochimaru, Kisame Hoshigaki was after the 8 tails, Naruto was being watched and that they captured the 4th tails. This was too much information for her to process, but she knew that this information had to be spread. I wonder why IWA hasn't announced their Jinchuriki missing. Do they really care? This is quite a treasure trove of information, Fukasaku nodded, in thought. What will you do with it? If they really did kill Jiraiya-chan, we can't just let that go. Something must be done about this Akatsuki organization. Tsunade looked at the old Toad and nodded, rereading the part where it said Naruto was being observed. We will send a general call to all major nations to meet us on neutral ground, possibly the Land of Iron if they will have us. Fukasaku looked at her incredulously before smirking, slowly making his way towards the door. Shinobi coming together against a common threat, I never thought I would live to see the day. Tsunade watched as he left and looked out the window. As per her nightly ritual and rainy day contingency, Tsunade pulled out a bottle of sake and poured herself a glass. The warming liquids rushed down her throat and uncomfortably settled at the bottom of her stomach. Why won't this let me forget? A lone tear fell from Tsunade's eye, a silent call of sorrow from the once strong Godame Hokage. Another one of her loved ones was gone. Kirigakure, 1 week later, May currently sat in her office, rereading a report that had been sent by the leader of Konohagakure, the Godame Hokage Tsunade. Her entire body shook with anxiety to what the letter contents read. The sheer ramifications and the effect on the ninja world was too great to be real. 4 tails captured, Jiraiya of the Sannin dead, and Naruto is next apparently. This is not good at all. What could Tsunade hope to accomplish with a meeting of the Kage though? Is she in her right mind? As she pondered this, the door slowly opened, allowing a single ninja inside. He had just arrived from the old Yozu ruins. Naruto Uzumaki walked up to his wife-to-be and kissed her in surprise. She welcomed the kiss immediately and allowed her tongue to tangle with his. Switching their spots so he was now the one in the chair, May now sat in his lap staring at him with pure joy. Naruto-koi, you are back. How was your trip to Kyumo and the ruins? Naruto detailed his training in Kyumo, accentuated by his swords that still were strapped to his back. Going to see Killer Bee wasn't so bad now, was it? Naruto sighed, not wishing to think of the encounter. It was only good after we got the wrapping out of the way. Besides, I could have learned how to wield 9 swords on my own. May giggled but then remembered the saddening message received and became gravely serious. Naruto, you need to look at this. It was received from Konoha a few days ago. It has some disturbing information. Naruto took the paper and began to read, his eyes slowly growing in size until they were saucers. Apparently finished, Naruto threw the parchment away like it was poison, his hands tightening into fists. Mei observed his face change from calm to pure anguish and hatred, something she did not wish to see. Pervy Sage and Rashi too, those bastards. Naruto threatened to get up and hunt them down himself before Mei placed both hands on his cheeks to try and calm him. Naruto, please calm down. You going out there and trying to find the men who did this will get us nowhere. You need to save your strength for when the real battle comes. Besides, I don't like to see you angry, especially around me. Naruto looked at her and saw the hurt in her eyes, making him feel ashamed. The small influence of Kyuubi Naruto allowed to slip through now disappeared, his eyes returning to ocean blue from the fiery red. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have overreacted like that. It's just that, you don't have to say it, Naruto. You already told me about your past with both of them. I would be just as angry if I was in your position. However, they both gave their lives to give you a chance to prepare and stop Akatsuki. And to cement that chance, Tsunade has called all 5 of the Shinobi nations to a summit to be held in the Land of Iron. Naruto was shocked. Tsunade was trying to assemble all the villages. There is no way that could work, right? I mean, we are talking about stubborn nations like Iwa and Kumo. How will we get them to agree? Mei seemed to ponder this for a moment. Iwa has obviously been keeping their Jinchuriki's disappearances secret, because otherwise they would have been calling for blood by now. If they are given a chance to rid a potential threat like Akatsuki, they can't refuse. Kumo is easy, you yourself had a hand in that. With you tagging along with me, it will surely ease relations during the meeting. Naruto's eyes widened. He was going. You want me to go? Mei looked at him as if it was obvious, to which he responded with a confused facial expression. Obviously, it says here I need 2 bodyguards to come with me. You are one of the strongest ninja in this village, if not the strongest. Why wouldn't I want you to come? And besides, it says in the fine print here that you have to come along, Hokage's orders. Naruto suspiciously picked up the crumpled paper and looked to see in small print that Tsunade really was ordering him to attend. So when do we leave? Tomorrow, Naruto-kun, be ready. Is there anyone else you want me to assemble? Mei poked her chin, trying to think. Suddenly she snapped her fingers, knowing just the man. Naruto, bring your old sensei here first thing tomorrow. Kumogakure, Raikage's office. What the hell is this? A notice from Konoha. Why the hell are they having a meeting? The Raikage bellowed, obviously not amused by this. His secretary quietly sighed from the side as he accidentally broke his desk again. This man was just too much. Raikage-sama, this is a legitimate meeting to be held. From the notes there, it shows that Akatsuki has turned from a rogue group of criminals to a powerful terrorist organization with possible ex-Konoha shinobi backing. We cannot turn away from this call of nations so easily. It could bring peace to the land. Besides, these are the people who have actively tried to capture not only your brother but Yujito as well. The Raikage seemed to ponder this, tapping his meaty fingers on his hat. I suppose that sounds about right. Get me Darui and Shure immediately. And when the lazy bastard asks why when he could just take a walk instead, tell him that I'll challenge him to a wrestle match again. The secretary's sweat dropped and set off to find the 2 ninja. After the last time Raikage-sama attempted a fair wrestle match, half of the Kuroku Mountains were destroyed and Darui didn't dare set foot in the man's office again. Iwagakure, Tsuchikage's office. An old man sat in his chair in a large stone room. His mottled brown hat sat unused on his desk as he massaged his back. Just finishing another pile of useless paperwork, Inoki seriously wondered for the 1000th time if he should retire. It might not be such a bad idea. I mean, then I could just retire and have someone massage my back without any shame coming from it. But who from the young generation could I? Inoki was cut off from his musings when the large door was crashed into and broken in half by a dazed but smiling Akatsuchi who was holding a scroll. Inoki deadpanned and with a sweat drop and quickly rethought his retirement. Who in the young generation can truly be trusted with such a position of power? This is a prime example of young whippersnappers that just can't do anything but fumble the ball in times of stress. I will just have to stay as the Tsuchikage. Tsuchikage-sama, a message from Konoha has arrived for you. The older man's eyes widened and he got up from his chair and set off in a steady stride to Akatsuchi. Taking it from him, Inoki wondered what his old nemesis of a country Konoha could possibly want. His eyes widened when he saw Arashi's name attached, wondering if it was some trick or trap. So, those bastards got Rashi too, huh? We thought that allowing Han to be taken would keep them away from the country. I suppose I was wrong to ignore them for so long. This looks suspicious, Akatsuchi. Bring Kuratsuchi here immediately. It seems we have a meeting to go to. Akatsuchi looked shocked that the Tsuchikage was really thinking of going along with something that was proposed by Konoha. Are you sure, sir? I thought that we couldn't trust the Konoha dogs and that we would never come into talks with them again. Inoki looked into the younger boy's eyes, slowly shaking his head in a condescending manner. There are times when one must take contradictory actions to his previous words and promises for the greater good. Sometimes, Inoki looked out the window to his village. One must remember what it means to truly be a shinobi. Tsunagakure, Kazakage office, Temari, Kankuro, prepare for a journey. Tsunade has called for a summit meeting of the Kage and I need 2 bodyguards. You are my first choices. Kankuro and Temari stood in front of their younger brother's desk talking about a priority message sent by Konoha. What's all this about Gaara? Kankuro asked, curious as to what Konoha wanted. It seems that Akatsuki has struck again and has become more than just a minor pest. Tsunade seems to have had enough of this and has called a meeting to discuss ways to defeat Akatsuki. I foresee this as being a way to promote unity amongst the divided nations of the shinobi world. Will Naruto and the Mizukage go as well? Temari wondered, knowing Gaara would like his friend to attend. Most likely Naruto will go along with the Mizukage as a bodyguard. I doubt he would entrust her with anyone else. I suppose you are right. We leave tomorrow, prepare yourselves. Amigakure Zetsu stood before his leader, Madara Uchiha, in a small meeting room reserved for privacy. Zetsu had been recently summoned for a private discussion concerning a message they had intercepted on its way to Takigakure, sent by Konoha. Zetsu, tell me what you think of this alliance talk that Konoha is proposing. Madara used his fingers to indicate air quotes around alliance as he thought it more of a joke than anything. Zetsu gulped, allowing his serious personality to answer. My lord, I believe that the talks can either be our savior or our destruction. Madara looked somewhat intrigued, waving his hand, gesturing to continue. Please go on. From what the past has told us, the major nations have always been at odds since their birth, whether it be because of territorial disputes, clan rivalries. Zetsu noticed Madara's eye narrow and continued quickly, or for personal glory. Who is to say that this meeting of Kage could not turn out to be a bloodbath, a perfect place for them to ambush and attempt to kill one another? Madara thought this over in his mind. It sounded quite plausible. If we look at the past to solve the answer, but we both know that that tactic doesn't always work. I have felt something strange about this attempt to unite the 5 nations, and while it does not worry me, I am somewhat concerned on how it will affect our abilities to kidnap the Jinchuriki. Now, I have a mission for you that concerns this summit. Zetsu nodded, glad that his lord recognized his abilities. I need you to go to the land of iron and spy on the Kage during the conference. We must find out any plans they create there and find out their strengths and weaknesses. I will make a later appearance to discuss with them my Moon Eye plan, and then we will retreat into hiding. With Danzo's forces now under our command, we have a small strike force, but Madara got up and looked out the one opening to exit the room. The rain poured outside as he observed the peaceful nature scene. What we need is an army. Kirigakure, village gate. Naruto stood alongside Mei and Chojuro as they waited to leave the village to go to the Kage meeting. At the moment, a large amount of ninja and civilians were gathering to see them off. The meeting had been purposely leaked to the public for morale purposes. Naruto had wondered if Mei was still in a physical condition worthy to still be a ninja with the baby. Mei insisted that until the symptoms became more prevalent and her bump was obvious, she would stay in office. Wow, I didn't even know we had this many ninja, Naruto mumbled. the sheer amount of their forces was quite staggering to the blonde. Yes, and they have all come to see us off. Isn't it nice? She asked, turning to her fiancé. Naruto looked back at her and smiled. Chojuro, do you have everything you need? Mei asked. The boy had been quiet for some time now. He shuffled his feet on the ground and readjusted the sword on his back, barely glancing at the Mizukage's eyes. Yes, ma'am, I think I'll be just fine, I think. Naruto looked at him with a barely hidden smirk. His sensei had always been so timid. You have to have more confidence, Chojuro. Mei wouldn't have picked you had she not figured in your strength. If you have faith in yourself, you can be so much stronger. Chojuro looked up to his old student's eyes and smiled, standing a little bit straighter. You are right, Naruto. I just have to remember that I have the ability to make a difference, then I can. The older boy went off into a stuttering mumble and Naruto's sweat dropped. It was still a work in progress. Mei elbowed him and stood a little straighter, making Naruto do the same when he saw an elderly man carrying her Kage hat. She had said that it was a monumental occasion when a Kage had to leave the village, especially for something so important as a meeting with the nations. An elderly person, generally a veteran of the council, would hand her the hat as a symbolic way of saying that the strength of Kiri's people would go with her. He paced towards her with a ceremonial staff in one hand and the hat in the other. The shape was of a serpent from Kiri's myths of the past. Mei took a small step forward so the man would not have to take as many steps to reach her. Naruto stood with his arms crossed confidently and with a smirk on his face. Chojuro had a small smile and had both hands in his pants pockets. Naruto's chosen attire to attend the meeting was somewhat of his old original clothing from when he first arrived in Kiri 3 years ago. He had on his black ninja sandals, black leather leggings to cover the skin between his pants and his sandals, and his old camo pants that were a black and white color. His shirt was mostly covered by his gray Kiri jounin vest, but the black sleeves were visible, as was the camo part around his neck and at the bottom of the vest where the shirt poked out. He wore his Kiri headband right on his forehead and had on his 2 gloves with metal protectors with Kiri's symbol on them. Be sure to take care of the Mizukage, make sure there are no problems. Naruto spied his fellow hunter Maruko in the front of the crowd, giving them their parting orders. I know that. Naruto said back simply, noting Mei's small smirk that formed as he said that. Finally, the elderly man outstretched his hand and Mei reached for it and gently took it from him. She did not put it on, however, choosing to hold it as she spoke reassuring words to the populace. Thank you, sir. I promise I will fulfill my duty as the Mizukage of Kirigakure. The man silently chuckled and nodded. A ninja that stood next to him spoke to the 2 bodyguards. As 2 of the 7 great ninja, you must protect the Mizukage with your lives. Naruto punched Chojuro in the shoulder and smiled, as did the smaller man. Of course we will, I wouldn't let anything happen to her on my watch. Naruto announced with a thumbs up. Everyone silently shrugged their shoulders in relief, knowing that the Mizukage's fiancé would keep her safe. Yeah, back in my day we would just leave and not give these going away parties. Get a move on, you 3. Naruto and Mei's eyes widened when they looked into the crowd and found a crippled Ao with crutches. His smile was a reassurance to both of them. Ao-senpai. You shouldn't be out of the hospital, you need rest. Ao just shook his head and hobbled over to Naruto, holding out his hand. It's customary for men to shake hands for goodbyes. I hope to see you soon, Naruto. I know you will keep her safe, that goes for Chojuro too. Naruto looked down at his hand and smiled, grabbing it and shaking with him confidently. Come on, Naruto, Chojuro, it's time to head out. Naruto turned around to see Mei slowly walking off with the blue hat over her head, obscuring her features. Giving one last confident nod towards the parting crowd, Naruto ran to catch up and stood alongside Mei as they began their trek to the land of iron. Kirigakure, prison. Upon leaving the festivity of seeing the Kage off, Councilman Ikoro headed straight for the prison that was the place he had visited only a month ago to see Kyo. Now that the Mizukage was gone, they could now begin work on overthrowing her and bringing about a new era, one without bloodlines like the Uzumaki. Yagura almost did it. now it's our turn to finish them off. According to official documents taken before and after the massacres, there still remained over 40 branch families of the Uzumaki, all had a mix of purebloods and branch members. Killing them all would be difficult, so that was why Okoro had suggested that the conspiracy and revolution be led by a veteran that led one of the hunter teams of the massacres himself, Kyo. Entering the room, Okoro sat down as instructed by the guards and waited to see Kyo. The man slowly walked in with his white prisoner robe, a frown dead set on his features. His brown hair was now graying from stress of being a prisoner, also no doubt from the message Okoro had left the last time. "What do you want, Okoro?" "They tell me nothing of what happens outside. I wish to know how much longer it will be before I am released." Okoro hid his smirk as he relayed the details of the current events. "The Mizukage has left for a meeting between the other great nations. Now it is time for change here in Kiri. Would you lead us to a greater tomorrow, one that Yagura could only dream of?" Kyo watched as two shadowy figures appeared and snapped the guards' necks, effectively allowing Kyo to walk free. The man smirked as they removed his bindings. He rubbed his sore wrists as he walked out of the prison along with Okoro. "I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. If you want early updates, check out Patreon. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.